The Detroit Lions are finally starting to get healthy this season. With the playoffs on the horizon, one game to go until the NFL playoffs officially begin, the Lions are getting healthy. A week ago, they returned Jalen Reeves-Maybin to the linebacking core and the special teams, and he's already making a significant impact. The week prior against the Chicago Bears, the Detroit Lions returned starting safety and star playmaker Ifeatu Melifonwu, who's already made his presence felt. And now, going into week 18, one of the biggest games in the Detroit Lions franchise history, they have the opportunity to return not one, but two key playmakers, two captains, two leaders, and two players the Lions have been sorely missing this season to potentially turn the tide for the NFC's number one seed. And today, that is what we're going to be taking a look at. The roster changes the Lions will see not only for week 18, but also through the early rounds of the NFL playoff, what these returning players mean for the Lions roster and their Super Bowl hopes, and the likelihood that these players return and impact the game as early as possible. So, with that being said, let's take a look at the Lions roster as of right now, because as much as we are worried about the defense, as much as a lot of people say the Lions will be one and done in the playoffs, their roster really isn't that bad right now. In the offensive side of the ball, the Lions still have their quarterback one in Jared Goff, who is statistically the best quarterback in the NFC, playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. He's leading the NFL in completion percentage, is 4 touchdowns away from 40 on the season, and just overall is having one of the best years of his NFL career and looks to be one of the best quarterbacks in football. Jahmyr Gibbs is playing like one of the best running backs in football, with Craig Reynolds and Sione Vaki playing pretty well behind him. Neither one of them have seen extensive volume over the last couple of weeks, but they've both been really good when their names have been called. And overall, I think the Lions have a good running back core to pair with the passing attack. St. Brown, Jameson Williams, and Tim Patrick are all still very healthy, playing at a very high level, with the offensive line being at 100%. Taylor Decker at left tackle, Graham Glasgow at left guard, Frank Ragnow at the center position, with Zeitler and Penei Sewell taking the right side of the offensive line. It's one of the best run blocking lines in football. Last week against the San Francisco 49ers, the only player to get pressure was Nick Bosa, who is one of the best pass rushers in the league. But outside of that, the 49ers, I think, had 4 pressures as a team with 0 quarterback hits and 0 quarterback sacks. Nick Bosa had a great night, but outside of that, the Lions' offensive line, in particular the interior of that offensive line, was playing some really, really good football when it mattered. Defensively, the Lions aren't quite as solid, but they're still turning out some pretty good production. Zadarius Smith, Levi Onwuzurike, Pat O'Connor, and DJ Reader will make up the interior and pass rush of this defensive line, alongside with Josh Pascal. Those are the 5 guys that the Lions have really been leaning on. Of course, Smith and Pascal are your edge rushers, with a healthy rotation of Onwuzurike, O'Connor, and DJ Reader on the interior. That isn't a bad defensive line. It's certainly not a great defensive line, but at the very least, I think you trust each and every one of those 5 guys to do their job at a high enough level to help the Detroit Lions win. It's no Aleem McNeil. It's no Aiden Hutchinson. It's not even a Marcus Davenport, but I think they are good enough to get the job done. The linebacking core is where it's really been a question mark as of recent, with Jack Campbell being at a Pro Bowl caliber level, being a great linebacker and taking a step in year 2. He's been fantastic. Trevor Nowaske has been a great waiver wire signing, a big surprise for this defense, and has been playing some pretty good football as of recently. But Ezekiel Turner has been the bane of many Lions fans' watching experience recently. He has given up a lot of big plays, gave up multiple touchdowns last night versus the San Francisco 49ers, and has really struggled in the linebacking core this season. The Lions need linebacking help. They need Anzalone to return. They need Quan Alexander to make an impact. They need somebody to step up over Ezekiel Turner, because right now it's not looking very good for the Lions linebacking core. The secondary has been quite healthy. Of course, Carlton Davis is not going to play for the remainder of the season, but you still have Terrion Arnold, Amik Robertson, Brian Branch, Ifeatu Melifonwu, and Kirby Joseph. That secondary is pretty good. It's very solid. Emmanuel Mosley is still there as some depth. Kendall Vildor, as much as we don't like him very much to play, and as much as a lot of Lions fans are negative towards him, he has veteran starting experience and has been a starter for the Detroit Lions before. And of course, with Ennis Rakestraw potentially returning, that adds even more depth to the secondary as the playoffs kick around. Taking a look at some of the injury updates for this team, Alex Anzalone is the big one. It was wildly reported yesterday that Anzalone was not going to play. And that stems from a clip from Ian Rappaport or Adam Schefter where he says that the rosters are so different and has Alex Anzalone on the list of players that is not going to play. That does not mean Anzalone cannot play. That means he is currently on injury reserve, and that Adam Schefter saw that and assumed that Alex Anzalone was not going to play. That is not telling that Alex Anzalone cannot or will not play. And a lot of people think that that is the end all be all. A lot of people saw that clip and they said Alex Anzalone will not play. And that simply is not true. Anzalone was limited in practice on Wednesday, has 2 more practice days to get healthy and ready for the game. And if he can play, he is going to play. Even if he's not at 100%, a forearm injury is something that players play through on occasion. It's something that you can put a cast on. It's something you can wrap. It's something you can put extra layers of protection on and still play at a very high level. It's not a knee injury where it's needed for explosiveness. Anzalone has fresh legs. He's ready to run around. He's ready to make plays. He's ready to tackle. And of course, while your arm is a big part of that, it's not like it's a knee injury. It's not like it's a calf injury. It's not going to limit his explosiveness. It's not going to limit his range. It's not going to limit his IQ. So if it's something that won't get worse, Anzalone will almost definitely play through it. In his 9 games this season, Alex Anzalone was really good. 56 tackles, 7 TFLs, 4 quarterback hits, a sack, and 4 passes defended. Anzalone was on pace to be potentially a Pro Bowl linebacker this year. The team captain, the team leader, having one of his most productive seasons of his NFL career, was unfortunately cut short, but he's going to have the opportunity to make it right. He's going to have the opportunity to return for Week 18, make the Detroit Lions case for the number 1 seed, and potentially get his team a bye in the first round of playoffs. Now, Alex Anzalone is not the only player making his return, as Khalif Raymond has the potential to do so as well. Being limited in practice this week and being in the second week of his practice window, Khalif Raymond is not only potentially going to return, I would say he's more likely than not to play for the Detroit Lions this weekend. He's played 11 games for the Lions this season, and although the statistics might not look great, his impact has been felt and sorely missed. With 11 games under his belt, 16 receptions, 204 receiving yards, and 2 touchdowns, Khalif Raymond is a really good, very reliable depth wide receiver. He plays out of the slot most often, but has been known to play on the boundary at times as well. As a kick and punt returner, Khalif Raymond is second to none in the NFL this year. With 27 returns, 390 yards, and a singular touchdown, Raymond, despite missing the last 5 games, still ranks in the top 5 among almost all return statistics. He ranks 6th in the NFL in punt returns this season, despite missing 5 games, 2nd in yards, 1st in touchdowns, 3rd in longest return of the season, and 3rd in the NFL in yards per return overall. He is one of the most underrated players in the NFL, one of the best punt returners in the league, and is a pretty reliable wide receiver 3/4. He is a player that may not have been felt the most on the offensive side of the ball as they continue to be fantastic, but on special teams, the Lions haven't had a really productive return since Khalif Raymond left. They've had a couple decent ones. They've had a couple that have been fair catches and have not lost the Detroit Lions field position. And to the credit of the substitutes, they haven't done anything to hurt the Detroit Lions on special teams. But they also haven't done anything to really impact the special teams, anything to really set up a touchdown drive. And that's where Khalif Raymond shines, giving the Detroit Lions offense fantastic field position, being a reliable wide receiver, catching the go-ahead touchdown last time the Lions went to Minnesota and played the Vikings. Khalif Raymond is one of the most underrated players on this roster, and getting him back is good for not only the special teams, but the offense as well. David Montgomery will not return for this game, has not practiced this week or since the Buffalo Bills game, but is projected to return for the divisional round of the playoffs with 185 carries this year, 775 yards, 12 touchdowns with 341 yards through the air. David Montgomery is having one of his best seasons as well. Double-digit touchdowns with Jahmyr Gibbs being this second head to the two-headed monster that makes up the Lions' rushing attack. It was devastating to see David Montgomery go down, but he could potentially return as well. Won't be there for Minnesota, won't be there for the battle of the one seeds, but could return for the divisional round, giving the Detroit Lions another edge on offense and making them that much more dangerous when they inevitably reach the playoffs. With that being said, I do think Alex Anzalone will play this week. As I said, it wasn't a knee injury. It wasn't a lower body injury. This is not going to be an injury that will limit Anzalone's explosiveness. It's not an injury he's going to have to learn to trust again. It is a forearm injury. And while those certainly are going to hurt, and he might be playing through some pain this weekend, I think his competitive edge is going to make him play. I think his willingness to put his body on the line, to sacrifice some health, and to play through some pain is going to let him play this week. He might have to wrap his wrist. He might have to put a cast on his forearm. But if it is possible, Alex Anzalone will play. He is too prideful. He loves the team too much, and he is too much of a leader and a team captain to not let the team succeed. So with that being said, this is what I think the Week 18 defense is going to look like. Zadarius Smith, Josh Paschal, and Al-Qaeda Muhammad are going to be your three primary pass rushers. DJ Reader, Pat O'Connor, and Levi Onwuzurike will be your primary interior defensive linemen, with Miles Adams getting a rotation. Alex Anzalone and Jack Campbell will take the most snaps at linebackers. Playing in a 4-2-5 will likely see a majority of the snaps, but Trevor Nowaske and Jalen Reeves-Maybin will also be there to substitute in for certain roles and certain packages. That is a massive upgrade from where the Detroit Lions were even last weekend versus San Francisco, where they, yes, had Reeves-Maybin, they had Jack Campbell, they had Trevor Nowaske, but with Reeves-Maybin still being limited, they had to play Ezekiel Turner. This week, I don't see that being the case. Turner will be the fifth linebacker on the roster at best. Reeves-Maybin will have another week of practice to get his legs under him. Anzalone will be returning, and I think the linebacking core and the run defense will be much better. Last week, the 49ers killed the Detroit Lions with play action and the running game, with misdirection, taking linebackers out of position. Anzalone won't do that. Jack Campbell won't do that. Jalen Reeves-Maybin hopefully will do that less, and Trevor Nowaske will not do it nearly as much. The linebacking core is going to get a significant boost if Anzalone is to return. I do think it'll make the difference in the game if he is there. Secondary still looks like Terrion Arnold and Amik Robertson on the outside, Brian Branch in the slot with Melifonwu and Joseph rotating in as well. There's a lot of different packages, a lot of different looks the Lions go with through the secondary. We're going to see Vildor a little bit. We might see Mosley a little bit. We're probably going to see some rotation in the secondary, but that's not a bad secondary to go into Week 18 with. And that is the roster the Lions will be fighting the Vikings with for control of the NFC. But with that being said, that's all I got for you guys right now. Let me know down in the comments below your opinions on the Anzalone return. Do you think he'll be back? Do you think he misses Week 18? And with that being said, let me know your score predictions for Week 18 in the comments down below. We'll go on another video probably tomorrow talking about that game in particular. But with that being said, thank you all so much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.